Hey guys, welcome back to Vertical Momentum. I am your host, Richard Kaufman, also known as the Comeback Coach. Guys, thank you so much for being resilient warriors, or as I call you, my dubs. Love you guys. Today's going to be an amazing conversation. We're going to be talking to my friend Doc. We're going to be talking about finances. We're going to be talking about mortgages. We're going to be talking about setting yourself up for success. And then we're also going to be talking about the brotherhood, also known as the military first responders. So, Doc, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Rich. Thank you for having me. I appreciate this opportunity. I'm looking forward to having a conversation with you for the next hour or so.
I love it. Now, you're from California. Uh, I'm a big Golden State fan. Uh, I love Steph Curry, but I'm a diehard Lakers fan. But I'm not
Okay.
a Lakers fan. I'm not a Lakers fan until LeBron is gone. So now, so I'm a Dubs fan. That's why I call our listeners the Dubs. So we're all warriors. So
I
let me
love it.
let me before we even get started, because I do have a traumatic brain injury. If I don't ask the question, I'll forget. What is your definition of resiliency?
Oh, I think my whole life represents resiliency. Resiliency to me is just pushing forward because, when the times are tough, that's what makes us stronger. That's what makes us better. So resiliency to me is to push through because one of my favorite quotes I got this from someone, and it was, pain is temporary, but quitting lasts forever. So resiliency is not quitting when the odds are against you and you just push forward. And it's funny that you talk about that, Rich, because I remember, I forgot who you were interviewing, and you had talked about some of your setbacks and how they made you who you are today. And I think to be resilient, we have to learn from our experiences to make us better in the future.
And I love that. And something I always talk, and it's a quote I forget. I think it's from Joel Osteen. He said that a setback is just a setup for God to show out.
That's what I'm
So that
talking about.
so that's one of my favorite quotes. But now let me ask you a question, because one of my best friends, still best friends to this day, we've been friends 30 years, over 30 years. We served together in 1986. He's from Compton. I'm from Jersey. White kid, black kid. He taught me NWA. He taught me, listen, NWA, Too Short. Yes, I actually wore a wave cap at one point. I know it's stupid, but he taught me, how California, everybody thinks California is Hollywood, Rodeo Boulevard. No, it's not really. So give us a little bit of background, where you come from, where'd you grow up, and then a little bit about your military service.
Absolutely. Well, I was originally from Waterbury, Connecticut. My mom was an officer in the Air Force, so we moved to Vandenberg Air Force Base, close to Santa Maria and Lompoc. Mom decided to get out of the military, and then we moved down to Canoga Park. And so growing up on the military base, that's how I met one of my good friends, and one of your good friends, Kelly Cardenas. We all grew up together in the same area. So my thing was,
by the way, one of the nicest people ever, biggest heart you'll ever see. And his favorite quote is, "You will be my friend for life." So guys, if you don't know Kelly Cardenas, go look him up when we get off here. Check him out. Your life will be so much better with him in it. So I just want to throw that out there.
absolutely. So, I grew up at Vandenberg Air Force Base, grew up in the military environment. One thing that I noticed, now I'm going to skip forward a little bit or fast forward a little bit. One thing I noticed was there's a lot of people when you graduate high school, some went to college, some went to junior college, some people received scholarships. Well, for me, the military was a way for me to be on my own. So I graduated in 1992. I graduated high school June 26th, June 29th of 1992. I was on my way to join the world's greatest Air Force. So I did 4 years in the Air Force. They wanted to cross train me. I was a firefighter in the Air Force. They wanted to cross train me to other jobs. And when you're a firefighter, a first responder in the Air Force, that's a lot of pride. As you can see on my shirt, I have proud to serve. And I just wanted to continue that funny story about becoming a firefighter. In basic training, you get your jobs of what you're going to do in your military career. Well, for me, I remember my mom being, you know, drug, alcohol officer. She was also CBPO, which is today's military personnel flight, like really the human resources of the military. So I went in thinking that I was going to have a desk job. I'd get to wear my dress blues every day. And I remember I called my mom up on the payphone in the day room. And I said, Mom, I'm going to be a firefighter. And she said, son, that profession, that job will take care of you for the rest of your life. And my mom was right, because after 4 years in the Air Force, I got out because I didn't want to cross train. And Fort Bliss, Texas, they hired me as a GS5 firefighter. I got out of the military June 30th, 1996. And July 8th, I was a GS5 firefighter at Fort Bliss, Texas.
All right. Now I just want to hop back real quick because
Sure.
When I joined the military in 1986, yes, I'm an OG. It means I'm an old guy. I joined because it was either jail or the military. I happened to do both at the same time, but I never thought, because I didn't have my mom or my dad just to put me in the right direction. Because a lot of us join the military not knowing, we're just thinking, okay, we're going to serve the military, but we're not like, you went in and you're a first responder, a firefighter. There's careers after that, where for me, yes, I'm a tank commander. If I go look at my local paper, there's not many jobs looking for tank commanders. You know what I mean?
Right.
So talk about it, because now hindsight is 2020, especially with me. What should a soldier? I think, because I had Mr. Lee Steinberg, one of the greatest football agents of all time, 8 number 1 draft picks, NFL draft picks, and he told me when he sits down with a potential rookie, he tells him what is the end game. And he says, if the quarterback or if the player says, doesn't say, I want to go to the Hall of Fame, he wants to represent him, because he said he's not looking forward enough. And I think veterans, when we join, we're not thinking of the end game. Because like we talked about earlier, if you're a veteran, if you're a first responder, if you're an athlete, we all have shelf lives.
Yes.
And we're not thinking of the end game when we first join. So please talk about that a little bit, because I think that is so, so important, especially today when the average veterans only, I hate to say only, but we're, our career is 3 to 4 years. What do you do when you're 20 years old, 22 years old? So talk about setting yourself up for failure before you even go to vets.
Wow. Whenever I talk to a young 20-year-old about joining the military, I always tell them, what do you want to do? What do you like doing? As a matter of fact, a true story, I was getting an oil change from a local company the other day, and I had a dash mat with the U.S. Navy on it. And the technician, the mechanic, had asked me, how was the military? And I said, it was great. It helped me who I am today. And he said, well, I don't know what I want to do. I said, well, do what you want to do. Do what you like to do. If you like working on cars and trucks, well, guess what? They have crew chiefs where you can work on aircrafts. Or if you go in the Army, you mentioned you were a tank commander. If you like turning wrenches, that's what you love to do that. And if you go to a recruiter and they don't want to give you the job that you want, unless you just have to leave home or you just have to leave your situation, just wait it out. Just wait it out for a little bit until that recruiter gives you what you want to do. Because at the end of the day, I'm a veteran. I love my military time because it's helped me, like I said before, it's helped me become who I am today. And you have to love what you do, because this is just real. And I'm not holding any punches. The military is going to get every ounce of sweat and blood out of you. So make sure you use it to your advantage your whole time, whether you do 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, or even a 20-year career. Make sure that you get the most out of the military, because they're going to work you work you hard as your career progresses. So that's what I would tell a young person looking to join the military is secure a job that you want to do. If you like IT computers, do that. If you like public affairs where you're doing interviews, taking pictures, doing all that work in media, do that. Go in the military with a job that you want to do.
All right. So before we get any further, because I want to dig real deep, like I said, I'm the G.I. Joe Rogan, the Oprah Winfrey of veterans. So I want to dig a little bit deeper into what you just said. I want to thank our sponsors. As you guys know, I was with GNC for over 30 years, in the military for 23. I loved energy drinks. I loved coffee, but most of them tasted like ass, or I would just go to the bathroom like 10 minutes later. So I came out with my own coffee called Vertical Momentum Coffee. Twice the energy, twice the kick, no crash. Best part of it is 100% of it is hand roasted by veteran hands. And the best thing is every bag you buy, we're going to actually send 12 veterans and their families. We're going to take care of them for 1 year, physically, mentally, financially, spiritually, at zero cost to the veteran. So guys, if you love coffee and you love a mission, write coffee down below and we'll get that shipped out to you. Also, I'm part of a company called Max Fab Consulting. You'll see it down below. If you're a CEO, CFO, do you know that if you hire a veteran or a disabled veteran, for every veteran you hire, you get a $10,000 tax break every year? And also, if you get anything done as far as wheelchair accessibility, everything, it's all tax deductible. And, the best people you can hire are veterans. We are the ultimate minority with only 2% serving. So if you hire a veteran, you're going to get somebody that's going to show up, look good, work hard, not take days off, because we don't really know. We know what sick call is, but we don't know what taking a day off is. So make sure you guys are hiring veterans. And if you want us to come in, teach you how to hire a veteran and get huge tax breaks, check us out down below. So now, Doc, let me ask you a question, because, you've seen military transitioning from two different perspectives. You've seen it from your mother's perspective. You've seen it from your perspective. And like one of my friends, Sergeant Nick Valentine, talks about, when you step off base, the military doesn't give a shit about you. Your phone stops ringing. You're losing. You don't have a career anymore. You don't have any money. You don't have camaraderie. And if you're like me, you end up looking at the bottom of a bottle with a pistol in your mouth. So talk us a little bit about, how you seen your transitioning and your mother's military transitioning, and also the people that you're seeing now. Talk a little bit about that.
I believe that, and I'm going to give it to you in phases, because I'm going to talk to you from a dependent perspective to my experiences to see and what I see now. So in 3. So as a dependent, I was brought up in Dodge schools. And in my opinion, Dodge schools are very underrated because of the education, the size of the classrooms. When I moved from Vandenberg down to Southern California, my classroom went from, say, 15 to 28 people. So that when the teacher is teaching in the public school setting, can't give that one-on-one, whereas in a Dodge school, you have that one-on-one. If you don't understand something, that teacher in a dive school can take that extra time with you. So that's one transition from going to Dodds to a public school. I was fortunate that I didn't have to move around because we stayed at Vandenberg the whole time, which was a blessing. But I didn't get to, like other military children. I mean, every 2 or 3 years, their parents are PCSing to a new destination. So now you got to start all over again. So that's the difference. So now let's talk about my own transition. I think I was fortunate because I was able to get out of the military. Now, before I had a secure job, I was scared. I was scared because I didn't know what was going to come. You know, I didn't know how I was going to pay my bills. Going back to SoCal was not an option for me. I enjoyed being on my own. I enjoyed being in the military. I enjoyed being accountable for myself and my own actions. So at first, like I said, it was scary. I didn't have any mentors at the time. And we talk about, you know, that transition. Well, I think there's a myth out there. You know, we talk about first responders, you know, and I have a story when I was an assistant chief, one of my young airmen was getting out the military. And I said, well, make sure you get everything documented for your VA disability. And he said, Chief, I don't need that. And I said, you earned that, because there's one thing I can tell you this right now is the way you're leaving the military, you did not come in the military that way. You're leaving different than you came in. So go get your benefits. You earned them. I'm a first responder, and I remember because I was that young man's age or close to his age. And what was said was, if you have a disability rating, you can't be a firefighter. Well, that's not true. So I take it upon myself to make sure that I talk to people and let them know that your VA disability, even if you get 0% or you get 100% or you get anywhere in between or in the middle, you earn that. You earn those benefits. So I would say, you know, that transition period is vital, and it's key because, like I said, you could be, it's scary because you don't know. But like I said, in my situation, before I got discharged, I knew I had a job at Fort Bliss working as a firefighter. And some people get out the military, they don't have a clue of what they want to do, and bills still have to be paid. And then if you have a family on top of that, you have a family support. So those are all those added stresses that one may have. Now, since I've gotten out the military and I've become I was a civilian, I just retired last year, July, from civil service, is that I believe in investing. And the military they have a TSP, thrift savings plan, where you can go traditional, or you can go Roth. Invest for your future. Another piece of advice I would give to military members while they're active is set themselves up for success after the military. We know for a fact that most people will PCS and leave a base 2 to 3 years. 2 to 3 years, people are moving around. They may even have to go overseas and do a year tour someplace, wherever that may be. And then they come back. Well, guess what? And this is one of the things that we talk to young airmen about every day, was financial literacy. I think that financial literacy with young airmen, and there needs to be more. Yes, you have, you know, support services from the base, whether it's AFRC, Family Readiness Center, all these things. I can't think of what the name is for the Army at the top of my head right now, but these are the type of things that, you know, transitioning military need to know. If you know that you're transitioning from place to place, keep your credit scores good. You know, although there are programs that can help a military person, active duty or veteran, into a home, but these are the things that you want to prepare yourself. And I'm gonna dig into what my point is is that if you're moving and you're able to buy a property at each location, well, guess what you're doing? You're building your real estate portfolio as you're moving. So you leave one location, you rent that house out. You go to your next location. Could you imagine someone who retired 20 years and they bought a house within the United States of every duty station?
Well, let me just hop in because after 9/11, we got deployed stateside, and we were at the gates for I think 18 months. And back then is when I started getting my life and my head right. And if I seen a brand new Dodge Ram pull up, I knew it was either an E1, an E2, and if I seen an old hoopty pull in behind it, I knew it was a sergeant major. It was a colonel, because they were investing in their real estate. The sergeant majors, they were investing in their future, to where the E1, E2 is paying $600 a month for a car payment at 30% interest to look cool. So talk about that. And by the way, I just wanted to put this out there. My friend Skip, amazing guy, changing the world, helping veterans physically, mentally, and spiritually. If you don't know Skip, guys, you definitely need to get in touch with him. An amazing dude. I just wanted to give him a big shout out. So talk to us, because we're not taught. Like, I didn't know about finances at all, because money was always taboo in my house. I didn't know you can bounce a check until I bounced a check and I got locked up for it.
Yeah.
So talk to us about how we need to, especially as being an NCO, I was, how I tried to take my guys under my wing and say, all right, do this. No, don't get involved with the stripper. Don't buy the new car. Don't get paid on a Friday and then be at the pawn shop on a Saturday because you're broke. So talk to us about some of the ways that new service members cannot get caught up in that whole, finance and learn some financial literacy.
One thing I always say first is only use credit when you have to. You don't need a whole bunch of credit cards. As a lender myself, you want to see people with below 30% cumulative on all their cards. Don't let any one card go above 30%. I would tell the young military member also is to invest in the TSP. Before we got on the show, I talked to you about the Montgomery GI Bill. It's the best thing out there. So I'd also, to go back to what we were talking about before, was if someone's joining the military, I also tell them, make sure you sign up for the Montgomery GI Bill, because that's going to be your college. As Sam, as your buddy said, get those certifications, get those degrees, because on the outside, they can mean, eating spam or eating steak. So for me, is invest the TSP. If you're a new person coming in, when you have the option to sign up for the Montgomery GI Bill, sign up for it, because you'll thank yourself later. And just live within your means. Don't, as you mentioned, driving the Dodge Charger, or when I was in the 90s, it was the Mustang. The Mustang was the Ford Mustang convertible was the car. And, you don't want to be car broke. If I have to drive a Daihatsu Charade, guess what? I'm going to drive a Yugo or a Daihatsu Charade. But I know that eventually, when I decide to buy that luxury car, I'll be able to afford it and it won't break my pocket.
Okay. And I totally agree, because I was that guy at one time. I'm not that guy anymore. I don't care what I drive. I care what I live in. I care about my children's future now. So I'm more worried about my legacy than I am, having stuff, because God just lets us use it we're only borrowing it for a while. So,
That's right.
why waste all of our money on it? Well, let me ask you a question, because I've had millionaires, I've had billionaires on the show. I've had the guys from Rich Dad, Poor Dad, they've been on the show.
Love that.
And, a lot of people say, I want to buy a house, but the VA loan sucks. And for me, it's the best thing out there. For me, it's the best thing out there. I bought my home and we bought no money down. They make sure it's in perfect shape so you don't have problems 10, 15 years down the road. And they guarantee it. Your credit score doesn't have to be amazing. But now I didn't realize, like I said, until I start asking questions, because your life is just built on the quality of questions that you ask. I didn't realize I could buy a fourplex with my VA loan and rent the other 3 out. Nobody told me that. Nobody's talked to you about that. So talk to us about the advantages of VA home loans. And I got this because 22 hours ago, you did an amazing post about the VA loan. So just so you know, I'm following and stalking you, and I'm learning from you. So talk about that. Talk about the VA home loan.
Well, actually, you mentioned all the key points already about the VA home loan. One, you don't have to have an amazing credit score. You don't have to bring it's zero down. If you're active duty, you can take your VA loan and buy a duplex or up to 4 units, a quadplex, rent the other 3 out. And then if you rent the half out, if you buy a duplex or you buy a quadplex, you can rent those other units out. And now you have income, passive income. And actually those units are paying your mortgage or helping to pay your mortgage. The VA loan, I think that's something that I would like to talk to more service members about, because they just think that VA is veteran. But no, if you're active duty, you can also use your VA benefits. And it's wise, as I mentioned earlier, if you know you're going to be PCSing from place to place, why not buy a duplex, let's say in Texas, where the property's inexpensive, versus, property in California. But Texas is very affordable. So if you're in Texas and you're active duty, or even if you're a veteran, build your real estate empire, because you'll thank yourself later. Also, points, you can get points on a VA loan. So, but like I said, you mentioned everything about the VA loan as far as zero down. You don't have to have the best credit. You can use it. It's a guaranteed loan. It's just, it's a benefit that you've earned that every veteran or active duty member should use.
All right. So then, because I think, like, I interviewed a billionaire and I said, what is the difference between, because we were playing poker one night together. And I said, what is the difference between a rich person and a poor person? He said, the only difference is their vocabulary.
That's it.
And it blew my mind. And I'm like, wait a minute, what do you mean? He's like, so many people will come into my office asking me for jobs, asking me for this, asking me for that. But he says, I've never had one person come into my office and ask me how I did it. And he said, and if that person was willing to listen, I would have mentored them. And I would have taught them about vocabulary. Like, I had a gentleman on last week, and we were talking about how a rich person will talk about depreciation, appreciation, and a poor person won't even know what we're talking about when you're talking about depreciation or appreciation. And I think once you start knowing the vernaculars and the words, and you start studying the words, you start thinking differently. Like I looked up my house. I think our house is almost worth like 600,000. I think we have like 300,000 in equity. And I said, honey, do you realize that we have enough equity that we can go buy a $2 million home? And also that we can sell the house, and I forget the name of the exchange, where I can move up and not even have to pay appreciation tax on a new house that I'm buying.
1030. It's called a 1031 exchange.
But if you don't know, You don't know what you don't know.
That's right.
And I think people need to listen to people like yourself, people like the people I've had on the show. You need to, if you want to be successful, you got to change your vocabulary and start doing what other people do because, success leaves clues.
Success
So
leaves
talk to
clues.
us, now, you're a firefighter, you're doing it, but there's a shelf life on that too. And that's coming to the end because we're not young like us anymore. You were not able to probably do the things you were used to be able to do. So you had to start planning and you started investing and starting self-education. Talk about that, the self-education part.
Okay. So whenever anybody asks me this question, I love to give them this answer or just a little story. I talked about, I started at Fort Bliss in 1996 and I was there. And as you progress through the ranks, you have to have certain certifications to progress. And I remember I had a setback, and we talked about setbacks before. I had a setback where I was passed over for promotion, and my chief at the time mentioned, "We like you, but you lack experience or you lacked education." That's when that light bulb turned on in my head that I need to be more marketable. So back in the 90s, everybody talked about Michael Jordan. So I had a mentality. I had a mentality that I wanted to be the fire service Michael Jordan to market myself. So what did I do? I got all the certifications I could get, I could earn. So then let's fast forward a couple years later. I said, I'd like to be a fire chief of my own department because, in my opinion, the best way to make change that you want to see is to be a decision maker. So in 2008, I decided that I was going to go back to school. Now, before that time, I attended, university, several universities, and I had a couple of college credits. But the cool thing was all my military certifications counted towards college credits. So I was able to use my military certifications as college credit. So that light bulb, going back to that setback of we like you, but, and knowing where I want to go, I said I want to be a fire chief. So I went back to school and I earned my bachelor's degree. Well, in the military, there's a tradition. Some people like tattoos, and in the military, you get one, you may get two, or you just may get your whole body covered, right? It's just, tattoos, you get one, it's addicting, really, honestly. So
Yep.
I caught the school bug. So I got my bachelor's and then I went for my master's. And then I was talking to one of my good friends. He's a mentor because no matter where you are in life, everybody needs a mentor. And I was talking to one of my mentors because we talked about that shelf life. I knew that I was going to have to hang up my badge sooner or later. So what was I going to do when I left the fire service? So when I was in the fire service, people asked me, why do you need a master's degree? Or why are you pursuing a doctoral degree? There's life after fire. And I like to quote my wife because one of her quotes is amazing. My wife says, there's life after DOD. And I already knew that, but when she put in that perspective, I knew that there is life after DOD. And that transition doesn't have to be scary if you set yourself up. So people would ask me, why are you pursuing a doctoral degree? And I'd explain to them, it's because I want to be a professor. I want to be an adjunct instructor. Maybe I want to be a superintendent of a school. Having that doctor in front of my name helps me in other ways so I can continue to support my family, support myself, and create that generational wealth. So you do have a shelf life. Maybe, pursuing education isn't for everybody. Well, guess what? We need people with skills. We need mechanics, we need carpenters, we need, contractors, we just need a lot, but just set yourself up for that transition. So for me, education was my was going to help me in the future. For instance, when I had mentioned that I needed education to progress to be a fire chief, true story. Most officers, they already have a bachelor's degree. That's why they're officers. But when you become senior, you talk about senior enlisted, but when you become senior officers like major and above, lieutenant colonel, colonel general, and flag officers, well, guess what? They have masters, and some of them are even working on doctoral degrees. So as an assistant chief or a fire chief, I have to be, and you said it, Rich, you said it, you have to have the vernacular. You have to have the vocabulary. So when you're sitting at the table, you can communicate with them. Because believe it or not, some people just think first responders, we're just, I'm just going to be honest, gorillas. We just run into burning buildings or we climb trees or whatever. Or, first responders that we're not smart. But if you think about all the things that a first responder has to know, crisis management, man-made disasters, natural disasters, all these things, hazmat, rescues, all these things, we have to be educated to do these things. And I think that my education helped me put me on the same platform. So when I go to meetings with a full bird colonel, or if I go to a meeting where there's an admiral or a general there, you know what? I'm sitting at the same table and I can have the same conversation and speak intelligently, because that's what education does. Education just isn't the degree. But if you apply it, it helps your critical thinking. It helps your writing. It does all those things for you. So you're able to articulate in a different manner, in a different perspective, no matter where you're at. Now, for me, I always like keeping it simple. But I know there's a time where I have to adjust the tuner to a different level.
And and I agree. Like for me, anybody knows my story, they know I'm open and honest. I didn't even finish the ninth grade. I'm a ninth grade dropout. But I've read over 6,000 books. I've had over 1,000 interviews. I can sit down with the chief of police. I could sit down with Mr. Richard Branson. I can hold my own in any conversation that I have, because I've educated and self-educated. But also I have mentors, and that's what I want to hit on. Because you talk about Michael Jordan. I love the Michael Jordan documentary series. It was amazing. I think I watched it 3 times. Now I'm a Lakers fan, so I'm a big Kobe guy. And Michael Jordan said that Kobe was a pain in his ass, because Michael would score 40 on him. 3 o'clock in the morning, Kobe's calling Michael, how'd you do it? Why'd you do it? How'd you make this move? So he mentored Kobe. And that's why when Kobe knew he was going to retire, that he wanted to do what Michael was doing, was being a businessman, starting businesses. Kobe, most people don't even know Kobe won an Emmy Award. Kobe won an Oscar Award. A lot of people don't realize that. And it was mostly because of the mentorship from Michael Jordan, where Kobe could have been like, hey, I'm Kobe. I don't need help from anybody. And he would have not have gotten that, the mentorship. But now also, Kobe was the guy that he got the mentorship. And if Michael told him at 3 o'clock in the morning, well, this is how I did that move, 2 hours later, Kobe's going to be in the gym working on that move. He would get to practice 2-3 hours early, shoot 1,000 free throws after the game. And that's how he became great. So talk to us about mentorship, but also taking what your mentors are teaching you and applying it.
Mentorship is huge. Throughout my career, I was mentored. And since I was mentored, I'm still being mentored to this day. But I think that being a mentor is a way to pay it forward. So the younger generations don't have to learn from or learn hard lessons because you're mentoring them. Earlier, we talked about financial literacy, mentoring. We talked about education is mentoring. But you can mentor on those things, but you also have to talk about the well-being of the individual themselves. just asking someone and just really mean it, how are you doing today? Because believe it or not, when you spend enough time with people, you get to know them. Like people who know me, Waddell doesn't seem like himself. Let me go find out what's going on with them. And mentoring is knowing your people, not just giving them sound advice all the time, but it's just knowing them. Hey, are you going through something? And if they share something with you, it's between you and that person. It should not be shared with others, because the minute you say something, or the minute they tell you something and you break that trust, they're never going to come to you again. Believe it or not, we talk about listening. You don't want to always be the guy always talking. You should have a two-way conversation. And if that person is talking to you, you should be listening and not interrupt, but just listen. And then you can ask questions later, because like I said, everybody has different things that are going on in their minds at all times. You don't know if someone had a bad day. Some people say you smile all the time. Well, you know what? I know that smile can make somebody's day. Another thing, just manners. Oh, you got me fired up, Richard. You got me fired up. Just manners. When you walk someone, there's nothing wrong with saying hello. There is nothing wrong with saying hello. My grandma used to say, being nice doesn't cost you a thing. It's free. But you just never know that hello or how are you doing can really make a difference. And especially if they have something on their mind, because everybody can talk to different people about different things. And so for me, mentoring is being able to listen and to help. Like, for instance, I told you about my buddy he's still a mentor to me. We talked about the shelf life of the fire department. For me, I love city government. I wanted to be a politician when, I want to be like the city councilman or mayor, And so I thought about, I already had a master's in emergency management. So I thought about, well, why don't I go get a master's in public administration? Because now with the master's in public administration, that means I could work in any capacity within city government, because I'm educated. Now I'll start working towards experience. And he said, well, no, why don't you go for a doctoral degree? And I said, that sounds great. So I truly believe that, not only you should be looking for mentorship professionally, you should also be looking for mentorship personally. For instance, I'm looking towards you for mentorship on podcasts.
You got it.
I've listened to you talk about branding. As an entrepreneur, you need that mentorship so you don't make those same mistakes. But you know what? You don't make mistakes. You have lessons learned. There are lessons learned. And when you talk about branding, and we talked about Kelly, I talked to Kelly about a month ago, and I said, I have a problem, Kelly. This is my biggest challenge. She said, well, Carey, this is what you want to do. And I've been doing that, and it's actually been working. So, I just think.
So now let me ask you a question, because, like I said, we're gonna touch on something that it might upset some people. Well, that's okay, because
it's okay.
One of my mentors and one of my friends now, Mr. Gary Vaynerchuk, he always says, "Screw what other people think." So many people don't achieve their dreams because of what other people think. And now, like I said, I grew up in the streets. People read my book. They know that I was cured from racism in 1986 from my friend from Alabama. But, the reason why I wanted to bring this up, because a lot of people, they would say, I've never seen a black first responder. I've never seen a black firefighter. I've never seen a black entrepreneur. They say, oh, are you too good for us? Are you an Uncle Tom? Or even like me, coming from the street, now I'm talking to billionaires and millionaires, and I become a public figure. A lot of people that I used to hang out with, oh, you sold out. Yeah, I sell out. I go to the bank every week because I want to take care of my family. So talk to us a little bit about that, Because I'm sure even when you're going through the academies, even when you start the entrepreneurship, people might side eye you a little bit, be like, "But you're not supposed to be a firefighter. You're black." You know. So and I'm sure you had to go through that, at least hear it. So talk to us a little bit about really not caring what other people think. You have to go for your own goals because we're getting one shot. Like
One
Eminem said,
shot, one opportunity.
you're only getting one shot at this. So talk to us about, going for your dreams and not really caring as long as you're not hurting anybody else. Going for your dreams because you're only getting this one shot.
Wow. I'm going to try and keep it condensed for time, but I could talk about this all day long. You actually mentioned one shot. We have theme music, and I'm a big rap fan, hip hop fan. Eminem, 8 Mile,
Yeah,
One
hold on
Shot.
a second. I just want to say that every time I go speak on stage, that is my theme song whenever I go on
No
stage.
way.
So that's why I brought that up, because anytime I speak on any stages, that's what I come out to. Because really, we only have one shot, one opportunity.
So for me, I've always been short, and and didn't have a lot of weight on me. But that all changed when I started playing football in high school. But for me, I've always had a chip on my shoulder. We talked about race. Back in 1992, Boys in the Hood came out. And I graduated high school. And there was a line in that movie that said, "The military is no place for a black man." And I completely disagree with that, because why? And I grew up with, where I grew up, kids were bussed in from LA to my school in the Valley. So for them, they may have that, but I was exposed to the military. My mom was in the military. My grandfather was in the military, so I thought the military from a different viewpoint. So, but I remember when I was graduating from high school, people said, "Why are you joining the military? Why are you joining the military? It's no place for you." But they didn't know that I grew up in the military environment. I still, some of my childhood friends, Kelly Cardenas and other people, I still talk to them to this day. But I've always had a chip on my shoulder because, when I was a young airman, I made stupid mistakes. I wasn't the smartest guy around, but I had mentors that believed in me and said that, "You know what, we're going to give you an opportunity to change, and we're going to show you the way." And my uniform started getting better. I mean, I had the crispy sleeves and, the spit shine boots, and my mentality changed. I remember one of my station captains, he was in charge of the fire station. That's what we call him, the station captains. He said, if Waddell needs to deploy, he doesn't need to be sitting on the backs. He doesn't need to be sitting passenger or riding backwards as a firefighter. He's expected to drive or crew that truck. So I need you all to work with him to build his skills up. And then earlier I told you about the story with the "we like you but." That was the worst thing ever, but it was a lesson learned, because now that's what pushed me to do everything that I had done to be, per se, the Michael Jordan within the DoD Fire Service, or aspired to be. And when you have that chip on your shoulder, it's like you're always working. The grind never stops. You're always moving. If someone offered me a class, "Hey, you want to go here?" I'm there. If you want to go TDY, I'm there. Oh, there's a volunteer opportunity, I'm there. So I've always, now that I'm retired, I still have the drive. I just have the drive is going in different directions. But just having that chip, Kobe Bryant, you mentioned Kobe. Believe it or not, I'm a Showtime fan before Kobe, when Magic and James Worthy and Kareem, that's where I grew up in LA during that time.
Kurt
And but to
Rambis,
see
the old Kurt Rambis
Kurt
days.
Rambis,
Yeah.
yes, and to see what Kobe aspired to be, you know, if you look at Michael Jordan and you look at Kobe had a chip. Michael Jordan had a chip. We talk about, you know, lessons learned. Michael Jordan was cut from his basketball team. Michael Jordan, but he kept on playing. He kept on playing. He kept on playing. He kept on improving his craft, and he became the great Michael Jordan. Now, this isn't a plug, but I watched the movie Air, and it was such a great movie. And because you know what, when you have a support system around you, the sky's the limit. You can do anything you want when you have a support system, you know. So yes, you can have a chip.
Let's talk about that real quick because I'm like I said, I'm a lifelong Lakers fan. Except for now, I can't wait for him and AD to be Lagon. But Magic Johnson, to me, one of the greatest entrepreneurs. He actually spoke at one of my wife's events.
Oh wow!
But you know, when he played, he didn't care if he scored 0 points. He was more worried about getting Worthy the ball, getting Rambis, getting Kareem. He was more worried about getting assists and playing defense than scoring himself. Now, my favorite player of all time is not a Laker. He's Dennis Rodman, probably the greatest defender of all time, because he would do the dirty work. He'd get the rebound. He'd get the steal, and he would do everything that nobody else wanted to do. So, talk to us a little bit about, you know, like Magic. He got his team involved. It wasn't, there's like certain players I'm going to name, like AI. You know, there's certain players that are all about them. It's the name on the back of the jersey, not the name on the front, and they don't win championships. And there's a reason why Kobe, Michael, Magic, they got multiple rings, is because they believe in the team concept. And if you're in business, you need a team. I can't do it by myself. I cannot be everywhere and do everything. And that's when I started to succeed, is when I started saying, I don't know what I don't know. So let me hire somebody that does know. Let them do what they're great at, and I'll do what I'm great at. So talk to us about building a winning team.
A winning team. And before I answer that question, I have to go back to you. We talked about the Golden State Warriors, and you brought up Dennis Rodman. Draymond Green is today's Dennis Rodman, in my opinion. Because he doesn't pack the stat sheet, but the energy he brings to the court for his teammates. The stat sheet doesn't show diving for a ball. Just being the leader of that team. And now that goes into what your question is how do you build a team? In my opinion, the best teams, you want to have a melting pot around you. People with different perspectives, different backgrounds. So you want to create a team of people. You don't want like-minded people. I mean, you want like-minded people for going towards the same goal, yes. But having people from different backgrounds, different demographics, that's what helps a team. Also, open communication. I don't have to agree with what Rich says all the time, but we can disagree to understand one another's perspective and thought process behind that. So, and then also camaraderie within the team. Because just like we learned in the military, you got to be able to trust the guy, or even in the fire department, you got to be able to trust the guy next to you, guy or girl next to you. So you have to have that open communication. So for me to build a winning team, I want people from different backgrounds. I want everybody to feel like, hey, whether it's going to be popular or unpopular, say what's on your mind, because Colin Powell once said, being hard isn't popular, as a leader. It's unpopular amongst people. But if everybody understands the philosophy behind it, then we can all meet the mission that we're going towards.
And I love Colin Powell, one of my favorite people of all time. So, last couple questions I have, I just, because as you see, whenever you say something important, I'm writing it down. So I'm not ignoring you. I'm actually writing it down so I remember. But I love talking religion. I love talking
Yes.
politics. And the reason why I do like it, because I learn. I'm not trying to get my opinion out there. Like if me and you were talking and say if you're a Democrat and I'm a Republican, whatever, I'll ask you, well, why are you a Democrat, Republican, Libertarian? And a lot of times they don't even know. Well, my grandfather was one, so I'm one anyway. But for me, like people talk about religion, and they're like, yeah, they talk about the Muslims and all that, and then I said, have you ever read the Quran? No. Well, don't speak on it if you're not
That's right.
educated. Like for me, I'm like I said, I'm a big Kobe fan. Somebody once asked him, he's like, Kobe, how come you're so dominant? He's like, I know my lane, but I dominate my lane, and I don't try to go in other people's lanes. So for the last couple for minutes, talk to him about dominating your own lane, because sometimes we get so sidetracked by all the glitz, the glamour, the silver, the gold, that we kind of miss out on what we're great at. Like I said, I'm a big basketball fan. I love that. I play video games every night, NBA 2K3. But there's people out there like Mr. Meta World Peace, one of the greatest basketball players, could have been one of the greatest defenders of all time. But once he started getting mixed up and making rap music and making music, he forgot what he was great at. And then eventually he lost what he was great at. So talk to us about not getting caught up in that shiny object syndrome and staying focused. For me, I love the word focus. Follow one course until successful. So talk to us about that.
Everybody's one of the sayings used to be a jack of all trades, master of none. And when you think about that, I think that you got to hone your craft. Whatever you're doing, you got to hone that craft. So for me, just staying focused and putting in the work and asking the questions and just reading and learning. Believe it or not, you can even watch YouTube videos on things now. You can Google everything right now. So the information is there for you. Whatever your specialty is, whatever your niche is, the information is already there. So for me, just continue to seek that knowledge. Always be a lifelong learner. Learning never stops. So to stay in your lane, that's what a team. We talk about basketball. You have the guards bring up the ball and they dish it out. And if you have a dominant big man, you make sure you get the big man the ball, because he's dominating on the inside, dominating. But just stay focused and find what you're good at. We had talked about when you're a young military member about to join the military, what do you like to do? And once you find out what you like to do, well, then that's your niche. For me, I talked about I want to be a politician. Well, guess what? As a fire chief, as an assistant chief, I lived that dream. I lived that dream of being because when you go, you have to, one, you protect the community. You're talking to your leadership. You're talking to your peers around you. You're talking to your subordinates per se. So for me, people's my niche. I like talking to people. I like helping people. That's my niche. And to really excel at your own niche, it's what you have a passion to do. Rich, you have a niche for doing podcasts and bring veterans on your show. I've seen you plenty. I've seen a couple of your podcasts with veterans, and that's what made me say, you know what, I need to reach out to Rich and see if I can get on his show, because you have a niche to talk to veterans and help us tell our stories to help the masses.
Well, like I'm a big Bruce Lee guy, and one of my favorite quotes, he says, "I'm not afraid of the man that can throw 1,000 kicks. I'm afraid of the one guy that threw that one kick 1,000 times." So
Yes.
for me, I try to stay in my lane, but my goal is to dominate my lane. So my last question is, what do you got going on now? How do we find you? How do we support your mission?
I think I'm all over. What I won't say all over, but as far as being able to find me, I am on LinkedIn. I am on Facebook. But what I'm doing right now, I'm a mortgage loan officer. Actually, I have 3 things going on right now. I'm a mortgage loan officer. I just started my ATM company, working with small businesses to put ATMs in their businesses. So I'm an entrepreneur. I'm also a published author. When I was becoming Dr. Waddell, it was like a roller coaster, going up and down, up and down. So what I did was I actually authored 3 books on how to complete a dissertation using a quantitative methodology, and that's available on Amazon. Now, my ATM site, if you go to Google and you search cwthrivingATMs.com, that's my ATM business. And then if you go on to Facebook, I have a landing page, Dr. Carey Waddell at Expert Home Lending Incorporated. You can find me there. And then you can also just punch in my name on LinkedIn, Dr. Carey Waddell. And those are all the places that you can find me.
And you're very easy to find, by the way. And I'm a big LinkedIn guy. That's where I do most of my damage. You got an amazing LinkedIn profile. Guys, make sure you check out his profile. He's got some he just posted something amazing like 23 hours ago. So make sure you check him out on LinkedIn. Very affable, very easy to get in touch with, especially on Facebook. I sent him a message, like 3 minutes later, I got a message back. So he's very easy to get in touch with. I want to thank Kelly Cardenas, totally amazing. I want to thank my friend Eric Allen, because if it wasn't for Eric Allen, I wouldn't have met Kelly. And if it wasn't for Kelly, I wouldn't be interviewing the drummer for Def Leppard soon. So it's all about building symbiotic relationships. And guys, I just want to thank you. I want to thank you guys for being my dubs, for being my warriors. And, without you, I wouldn't be able to do what I do. And thank you for being a huge part of my success. Brother, I just want to say thank you. And I'm truly humbled for your friendship.
I am humbled too. And thank you for just, I just had a great time. And I look forward to, our continued relationship, friendship, and, just being brothers, because I just had a blast today, and I look forward to future communication. So
I love it, brother. God bless you. You're doing amazing things. God bless you and your amazing family. Guys, as you know, I'm a big Joel Osteen guy. And my quote I end every episode with is, today I decide whether to become a victim or the victor. Please, guys, make sure that you're choosing to be the victor and not the victim. I love you guys. Have an amazing day. And remember, vertical momentum, the only way to go is up. And I love you guys. Love my dubs. All right, my friend, have a great week.